Hi, it's Narelle from Simply Stamping with Narelle. Today I have a cute card using the Life's a Beach stamp set by Polka Dot Orchard. This is a digital stamp set and perfect if you want to do any beach themed, summer themed cards or layouts. I selected a few images and I've already coloured them using my Copic markers, and I picked out a fun sentiment. Now, saying I use Copics, I'll have the numbers listed below that I used, but I'm no expert in Copic colouring. I'm only fairly new. I've dabbled at it over the years, and I'm starting to get back into it again. So, yeah, don't expect perfect colouring or anything super fancy from me. I am still learning, I guess. Right, now I wanted to try a multimedia background that I'd seen a few people do, and it's called, well, I've heard it called smooching. It's a very technical term. But I wanted to create an easy, like, watercolor, I guess, sort of background for those cute beach-themed stamps. So I've got a plastic bag here. This is a snap-lock bag. I've put a bit of Reinker on it. I think it's balmy blue I've used, and spritzed it with water. And the idea is that you drip the ink off onto your cardstock, and then you smoosh it in with the plastic bag. Now, I've seen a lot of people use packaging, like from embellishments and stuff like that, but I didn't have any spare from any old packets, so I just used a plastic bag. It works the same. So you drip on the cardstock, and then I've seen people do it this way, where they just smooch it in, or they keep picking up the plastic and moving it around and just transferring the ink wherever they move the paper. So I don't know how this is going to turn out, but it's a technique that I wanted to try and see what happens. So I'm going in again with a bit more balmy blue, and I'm just trying to pick up as much of that water on that plastic bag as I can each time, and then smooshing it down. Now, this cardstock is just normal basic white cardstock. It's not watercolor paper. It's not mixed media type cardstock like your Vicky Bouton foundation paper. It's nothing like that. It's just normal plain white cardstock. So I wanted to try it on here and see how it goes. Now, the problem with this cardstock is it can't take a lot of moisture, so you have to keep drying it off. So I dug out the heat gun and I'm drying it off. And I fast forwarded this bit because you don't want to sit here for 10 minutes just listening to the heat tool dry the cardstock. An issue with using plain cardstock like this is that it can peel really easy or go like lumpy and bumpy and a bit strange in areas. So you don't want to saturate it too much, and you do want to keep drying it regularly to avoid that. It will still happen because of the nature of the cardstock. It's not made for this sort of stuff. But for a beginner and testing out a technique, then it will work fine. Right, so now I'm using Pacific Point, which is a much more vibrant blue and gives a much prettier result. Balmy blue looks a bit dirty and washed out there, but the Pacific Point is a much nicer colour, and wish I had started with this colour because it's absolutely beautiful when it's used like this. So I'm just smooshing a bit more. Sorry, every time I hit something a bit hard, the table, obviously not that sturdy, and it jars the camera a little bit, but never mind. Right, so now I want to bring in some sand colour. So the idea of the background I was trying to create was like water with a bit of sand, like a beach. So you sort of see like the blue out to sea, and then the sky all sort of merges into one. It's all blue, and then you get the sand in the foreground. So that's the effect that I'm going for. So a little bit more drying, and then I'm going to bring in some Crumb Cake Reinker and do the same technique, a little bit on the bag, spritz it with water. Now, I didn't want to do too dark, so I started with a little bit of Reinker, and I can always add more, but you can't take it away if you do too much. So going in with the Crumb Cake. Now, I did also get soft suede Reinker out too, but when I was doing this, I thought, oh, it might actually be a little bit too dark, so I didn't use it. I just kept going with the Crumb Cake until I had enough of what I thought looked a bit like a sand on the image. It's a fun technique. You can get quite messy, but always have paper towel handy to wipe up any spills or any mishaps like that. That little bit of crumb cake dot at the top, but it didn't worry me too much because I know I'm not going to use the whole thing. I'm just going to use a section of it anyway. So I will just make sure that I don't use that bit. This time I sprayed or spritzed the paper cardstock as well first. Just thought that might have made a little bit of a difference. I'm just experimenting, having fun playing, trying different things. But I wanted that beachy sky water type of background effect for those stamps. And again, I have to dry it off. You don't want to get this paper too wet. I actually did too much at once here, and my paper did get like a scrunch mark across it. It was a little bit strange, but it didn't matter in the end because I'm not sure, if it really matters because it adds texture anyway. So now I'm just going to get rid of my El Chupe multimedia mat. You'll notice it's not a proper standard multimedia mat. It's just a barbecue liner from Bunnings. Bunnings is a local hardware shop here in Australia. And it's a non-stick Teflon mat, so it can stand the heat and nothing sticks to it. It's brilliant. It's probably a third of the cost of your normal multimedia mats. It's a Matador brand, heavy-duty non-stick hot plate liner. It's Teflon, non-stick, heat-resistant. It's brilliant. I love it. All right, now this is my die cut folder. All my dies I transferred out of the plastic sleeves and put them in different plastic sleeves. And I was sick of them sitting on top of my Rasgog trolley, or actually two trays of my Rasgog trolley, and flicking through them all trying to find what I want. I got this idea from Janet from RTS, and I'll list her channel below. And you just cut them all out and stick them in a book, number them all. But after I had so many, I went, I'm not cutting any more out. I'm just taking a photo of them and putting them in the book. So it's just a quick reference guide. You can flick through and see really quickly what it is that you have. And they're all numbered. So when you go to the binder of where they all are, they're easy to find. Good and bad in this. The bad thing is you can get very distracted by what you find and go, oh, look, I forgot I had that one. But you can easily stay on track as well. So there, I found what I wanted, the diorama dies, number 121. Now, I've got quite a few folders of dies. Now, in that folder as well, I've got my punches and my embossing folders and all my stamps, pictures of all the covers of all my stamps. All right, so this is a material binder by Poppy Crafts, I believe. And these are all the plastic sleeves, again by Poppy Crafts, with a magnetic sheet in them. Really, really handy. And I have them all numbered, so the corresponding sheet in the other folder corresponds with these in here. And each of the 5 of these cases that I've got are numbered, so I know which numbers are in which one. And I've actually condensed my dies from 2 Rasgog trays into 1 cube in my Kallax unit. And it is so much easier to, it just means an extra step. So rather than standing at my Rasgog tray and flicking through all the dies and then going down the next shelf and flicking through them all, I find it quicker to flick through that folder and find what I'm after. All right, so I wanted to make a window using these dies. And I'm just trying to find the right size that I want. And at this stage, I was thinking that I was going to do a portrait card until I started looking and went, well, I'm not going to get a lot of that background in my window if I do that. And then I thought, well, I'll try the side. I'll turn it sideways. I'll turn it upside down and let's see if I can get something better. But I wanted to have like the sand at the bottom and the water blue type of look at the top of the window. Then I thought I'd use 2, went no, that's even less space that I'm seeing. And in a minute, the light bulb's going to go off and I'm going to go, oh, I should do a landscape card. Then I can use a bigger die cut and see more of that background that I just made. So I'm getting close to that thought coming. Right, finally, it has occurred to me that I can do a landscape card. So hence the bigger die, more of the background going to be shown. Much more happier with that. And I just want the one. I don't want to distract too much from the stamps. That's the whole purpose of making this card, was to showcase these beautiful stamps. So now I think I know where I want that die. I'm quite happy with the amount of sort of sand I'm seeing and the amount of blue. So now I have to sort of just keep that die in place once I'm happy with where it needs to be. Now I'm not going to cut this piece of paper out. This is going to be the backing. So I'm going to have the card base, then this layer, and then another white layer on top. Right, so I'm just going to cut the top layer, which is going to be 4 inches by 5 3/4 inches, and it's just your basic white cardstock. And this is a piece of A4 Balmy Blue cardstock. And I'm just cutting it in half. And then going to fold it in half to make my card base. Now I don't measure my card bases and I don't score. I just cut the sheets in half and then fold in half and burnish. This is the top layer. It's going to have the die cut out of it to create like a frame and a window. And now this piece, I need to keep in place that die so I can measure and cut down that piece of cardstock for it to measure the same as that white piece. So it's got to measure 4 by 5 3/4. Now this washi tape that I've got tears any cardstock I put it on, but I need to hold this in place. So the inside of that die is going to be seen on the final card, but the outside of that die is not going to be seen. So I've made sure I put the washi tape on the outside of that die. Now I'm just measuring this so that it's going to be 4 by 5 3/4. And when I make this first cut, it doesn't cut all the way through because the metal die is really close and under that guide. So it's really close to the cutting blade and it's under the guide. So it cuts enough on the edges though, so that I can still put it at the 4-inch mark and get the other cut done. Then I can remove the die and go back and complete that other cut, if that makes sense. But I just needed to do the initial one so that I could get it cut to the right size. Now I can take the die off because I'm pretty sure that, or pretty confident that I can cut equally from each of those sides to make that 5 3/4. So now I'm going back and doing that first cut all the way along. And then just going to trim the edges either side so that the final piece ends up 5 3/4. Now it can be a bit tricky doing this if you are using a piece of cardstock that you've done multimedia, watercoloring, whatever on, because it does tend to buckle and warp. But you just got to go slow and be careful. Now I have been watching a lot of multimedia videos and this has got me inspired to do this today. And I did watch a few videos and I couldn't remember what they said to put, if your cardstock buckles, run it through something to flatten it back out. At the time when I made this video, I couldn't remember whether it was a die cutting machine or a laminator. And then I thought it was a die cutting machine, so I put it through to straighten out the cardstock a bit. It did work to a certain extent. It didn't completely flatten it, but it did take some of the buckling out. And then when I finished the video, I thought about it and went, oh, it's a laminator. Put it through a laminator because it's the heat that's going to flatten the cardstock out. Live and learn. Next time I'll use a laminator. So now I'm going to cut the piece that is going to be the top layer of the card. And this time I'm going to cut the window out. So the middle of the die cut here is not going to be used. It's going to be thrown away. Hence I'm moving that washi tape so it's on the inside of that die. I'm using a Gemini Junior, so you need to put the cutting surface of your dies up when you're using the Gemini Junior, which I've just done. And now it's going to be time to assemble. Just going to remove that piece, and now I've got a lovely window to go on top. And I'm going to put this on dimensionals because I do want it raised a little bit. So I'm going to speed this bit up because it's boring watching someone just put dimensionals on something and then take the backs off. And in hindsight, I should have used a double layer of dimensionals because when I put this on that other piece, it's not sitting as proud as I wanted it to. So, yeah, I think if I did this again, I would use double layer of dimensionals so it sits a bit higher. But there was no way I was going to take it back off once I'd put it on because it would have wrecked it. So a great tip when you're lining things up that are on dimensionals is I like to hold one corner, line it up, hold one corner, then the opposite corner, and then the rest just sits on perfectly and should line up perfectly without any overhangs. So I'm just going to glue this now to the card front, and there's going to be a very small border all the way around so you can see that balmy blue cardstock. I like using the liquid glue, Tombow liquid glue, when I'm gluing things because it gives you a bit of chance for some wiggle room. So if you get something slightly crooked, you can straighten it up. And then to set things, to make sure that they are on there properly, and I've used, enough force to hold things down, I like to turn my cards over and press to make sure it's set. If I was to do that from the front, I could easily have twisted or moved that panel. So doing it from the back, I have less chance of doing that. So these are all my beautiful Life's a Beach stamps that I've coloured and cut out using my brother's scan and cut. And you can see the red bucket there. Yeah, I had an accident and I sort of cut the handle off. So I won't be using that. The piece of paper that I had that on my brother's scan and cut was a bit big, so I trimmed it down, but I turned it over to trim it down and then turned it back over and went, oh, I got the handle. Never mind. I do have another bucket there with sand in it, but I would have liked the red bucket. All right, so the sentiment, I am just trimming down. I didn't want to use another die or a punch to cut it out. I just wanted something quite simple. And the sentiment is so cool. Some days it's okay just to be a beach bum. What a cool sentiment. I love that. It's great weather in Australia at the moment for being a beach bum. All the kids just gone back to school. I think a lot of the mums home deserve some beach bumming days. Kids were home extra after Christmas, so only just gone back to school. I think they need a bit of beach bumming in their lives. Just going to put dimensionals on the sentiment that overhangs the window and glue on the bit that's on the frame just so that it's even. And then just going to put my colour in and cut out stamps. And I love using digital stamps because you can make them whatever size you like. I made mine quite small today because I wanted to create a scene with them. But I could, if I wanted to, make one of them like that sandcastle or the sailing boat Yep, not going to use that bucket with my cut off handle. I could use the sand castle or that sailing boat and make them like a full card front size 6x4 or something like that. You can size them to whatever size you want. They're fantastic. And these ones are so cute. So now I've got them arranged how I want them. I'm just going to glue them on. Apologies for my paint pot. You can see there, it's pretty gross. I like to store my glue upside down without the lid on. It's nice and quick, easy to access that way. The only problem is every time I put it back in the pot without the lid on, a little bit of glue is left behind on the tip or comes out. So you end up with a lovely clump of glue at the bottom of your container. It doesn't worry me, but it doesn't look great on screen. Sorry. But I'm too lazy to keep taking that lid on and off every time I want to use it. It just frustrates me. So I just leave it off. And I use little pots that I get from secondhand shops. They're either little, what are they? Not latte. The little espresso cups, or the little votive, I think they're called, or something, the little candle holder jars, things, vases. The little ones, I just, pick them up when I see them. They're like 50 cents a piece. And I have a stash of them so that when it gets too funky in the bottom of my glue container, I just bring a new one out. All right, so all my stamps are glued into position. Beautiful stamps. Love this set. And this set has some really cool sentiments as well, like soak up the sun. Every summer has a story. Don't worry, beach happy. Life's a beach. Play in the sand. Relax, play, laugh. Really lovely stamp set. I might actually do a scrap page using this. I've got some beach photos that I could scrap. So here I've decided I need a bow under the sentiment. So I've just got the one long piece of string and going to hold them both together as one. So I cut it in half and then hold them both together as one to make a bow. Except I've forgotten how to make a bow. It's been a while, obviously. So let's try that again. And I can fiddle with a bow for ages. I don't know about you, but yeah. It's like I pull one side and then the other side's too long. So then I pull that side and it's too short. Oh my gosh, I could fiddle forever. Sometimes you just got to say enough is enough. It's a bow. It will do. And I'm just going to attach this with mini glue dots. Right, now these mini glue dots are Stampin' Up brand, but I'm sure they are just rebranded glue dots that you can buy at any shop. Tell me, the glue dots lately have been on the underside of that top piece of paper. You see there where I just got it from? They used to be on the other side. So you'd lift the bit of paper up and they'd be on the rounded bit, and now they're on the flap, if that makes sense. So it frustrates me. I don't like them on there. So are they all like that? Is that a manufacturing error, or is that the new way that they're coming? Because they're not as easy to use, not as easy to get off. And yeah, not a fan. All right, so just tweaking the bow. Yeah, so let me know, are your glue dots like that? Because I don't like them like that. And then every card has to have bling or something. So I'm going to find some bling to add. And I found some of the Stampin' Up sea glass elements. I don't know the exact name of them. and decided to put some of them on there. Now, in hindsight, I should have coloured them with a Copic marker to change the colour, because the packet has white, like a yellow, like a limey greeny yellow, and like a minty green. So I should have coloured them either blue or like a tan colour, because you really can't see them. I mean, when you get close up to the card, you can see them, but from a distance, they don't look like they're there. So I'm just going to randomly place a few. I have no idea how many I put on. I normally count so that I make sure I put on an uneven amount, but I was just sticking them on. Now, I know you probably can't see them that great, but trust me, they're on there. One more. No, maybe another one. I think this is the last one. Okay, so then I thought, well, let's do some splotches. So out comes the plastic bag again and the Reinkers, and I'm going to do some splotches. So just Reinker on the plastic bag. I'm going to spritz it, and then I'm going to use an aqua pen to make some splotches. Now, that's a blending pen. Wrong thing. Here we go, aqua painter. So just going to pick it up and then just tap the brush to add some splotches, splashes, whatever you like to call them. Just add a little bit more texture. And that's it. I think we are done. So these wonderful digital stamps are from Polka Dot Orchard, and it's a stamp set called Life's a Beach. It's really, really pretty. Lots of fantastic sentiments in it. And I will have their shop listed below, and go over and have a look at what they have. Have some wonderful stamps. Thank you for watching. I hope you like this card. Have a great day.